Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Senna supplementary guide, and I'm gonna quickly go through what this new build, runes, and spells of Senna's are. And before we get into that, just a quick just sort of announcement, I guess, is that I did mention in like my past one or two videos that I will be intending to do a build for every ADC kind of video, which I have done before for this current patch 3.3c, but I've decided not to actually do that because as of the recording of this video, I'm recording this one day before the preview for patch 3.4 releases. But either way, from when I'm recording this video, it's gonna be about 10 days to patch 3.4, and by the time this video actually releases on YouTube, it will probably be under a week, or maybe probably be under a week until the patch is released. So there really isn't too much of a point because I think some of the builds might change. Now, of course, at this point, I don't actually know any information about patch 3.4 yet because I haven't watched the preview, because today is the day before the preview, but when this video is out, you guys would have seen the preview as well as I would have done so as well. So anyways, we'll cover that in patch 3.4. And what we're going to cover now, though, is going to be Senna's build. So this build is sort of a carry style build for Senna. So the normal build that I used to go for doesn't involve mana immune, involves taking Grasp instead of Kraken Slayer, and basically that is the, I wouldn't call it the support build, but I would call it like you do overall less damage, but you do have overall more utility. So that is what I would describe that build as. Whereas this build is full on hard carry mode. So when you go for this build, basically you go for this build if your team is lacking damage and that sort of deal. We'll talk a little bit more about when to pick Senna and when to go for what build when we get into the gameplay itself. But for now, I'm just going to cover the build itself. So first up, what we have is we have the mana immune. So what the mana immune gets you, of course, is a little bit of AD, mana, and ability haste. Now, the mana is actually really important on Senna because Senna actually runs out of mana relatively quickly. So I do take mana flow ban normally, but since I'm gone for mana immune, I don't do that anymore because obviously too much mana is overkill. But what this gives you, of course, is a lot of mana, and when you fully stack it into the mirror mana, you will be able to, of course, deal that bonus on hit damage, which of course procs on her Q as well as her auto attacks, because her Q does proc on hit abilities. And next up, we go for the Black Cleaver. Of course, makes her a little bit more tanky with the health, gives her more ability haste, more AD, as well as the movement speed from the Rage passive. Now, what it also gives is the Armor Shred. This is particularly useful in games where you have a lot of AD aside from yourself on your team. This is going to help you shred down the enemy's armor to deal more damage for your whole team. Then we go for Divine Thunder. Of course, gives you yet again AD, health, and ability haste again. And it also, of course, gets you the shred on tanks. So, of course, this will get you 7% extra physical damage as well as healing for 3% because you are indeed ranged. And of course, this has Spellblade as well, which of course procs with her Q, and also you auto quite a lot, so this is really useful. And then you go for the Moral Reminder, giving you the penetration as well as the Grievous Wounds. Now, honestly, the Serelda's Grudge is really good on Senna as well, and honestly, Serelda's Grudge is better than Moral Reminder, but in this like current meta, there is so much healing in the game that it's really hard to not go for Moral Reminder. And of course, you are advised to in fact pick up the Executioner's Calling earlier, Executioner's Calling being this item, which of course gives you the Grievous Wounds. And finally, I top it off with a Rapid Fire Cannon, which of course gives you that increased range as well as all of the other stats, but the main important one is the increased range. Now on Senna, honestly, you rarely go past 3 items, especially because like Divine Thunder is expensive. These two are decently priced as well, so you normally don't get to your last 2 items, which is why you normally go for the Executioner's Calling earlier to cut the healing of the enemy team. I haven't actually gone to full build at any point of time in any game yet, but if you reach full build, you probably will have a lot of souls, and you probably will straight up just destroy the enemy team if you manage to actually reach in that late into the game. So for the boots, generally I always go for Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Boots of Fury is useless because you already have Rage passive on the Black Cleaver. Gluttonous Greaves doesn't help too much. Defensive Boots, honestly, I don't find very useful because you're so squishy that if anyone actually manages to get onto you, you're probably dead anyway, so I don't really think defensive boots are really helpful. And for the enchant, you honestly have a lot of options. So in matches where there are like assassins like Zed, for example, or like Katarina, or backline divers, you know, that kind of deal, stasis can be really good, especially if you are the one carrying, or if Yeah, if you're the one carrying, if you're fed, or if you have a team of tanks and you're the only carry, stasis is important for you to survive. But certain games where your team actually has other damage sources, let's say your mid laner is like a Katarina and your jungler is like a Kha'Zix who can actually carry the game as well, and let's say they are fed and you're the one that's doing like okay or you're behind, then you can go for a more supportive enchant like something like the Locket, or you can also go for the Redemption. That is also going to be really helpful. And the last couple options you have is Proto Belt because you have no mobility, so having a little bit of mobility is helpful sometimes, although this has gone a bit weaker because it did get that price increase up to 800 instead of 500. And lastly, Quicksilver enchant. If certain matches there's a lot of CC and you need to cleanse that, you go for the Quicksilver. Alright, so now the runes. So the rune that makes Kraken, not Kraken, I already revealed it, but I mean you can see it anyways. The rune that makes Senna's damage build really strong is the Kraken Slayer, because with the new buffed Kraken Slayer, you actually get, proc Kraken Slayer with on-hit effect, so you can proc it with your Q. So you auto allows you to proc Kraken Slayer, and this is surprisingly strong in lane. So we all know that Senna doesn't really do too much damage in lane, but with the Kraken Slayer, she does quite absurd amount of damage, and of course, skills into late game as well with that bonus AD. Of course, you're building a lot of AD in your build, so that does make sense. Now for the domination rune, I actually like taking Giant Slayer now, because if you take a look at your options, honestly I don't feel that there are too many good options. Gathering Storm is like meh because you do get the good scaling, but on AD is not really good. Vampirism is sort of useful but not really. Same for Triumph. Champion is a no-go. Scorch is a no-go. And Weakness is sort of what I used to take last time, because at least your team does extra damage when you hit your W. But now that Giant Slayer is around, I always take Giant Slayer because there's so many people you can use this on. Tanks for obvious reasons, fighters for obvious reasons, even a lot of assassins like Kha'Zix and Zed like to build Black Cleaver, so you will get bonus damage on them as well. And mages like to go for stuff like Oblivion Orb or Morello's in the late game. So in the late game you will deal like 10% bonus damage to them, which is where you'll do damage anyways, because you don't have too much damage early game. So I think Giant Slayer is really good on Senna at the moment. Nullifying Orb, of course, for the shield in both laning phase as well as late game, always going to be helpful. And lastly, Hunter Genius, of course, for that ability Haste. Lastly, for the spells, obviously we go for Flash and we go for Exhaust. Now, because Senna, you normally fast with Senna, you can also go for something like a heal if the other person in your lane has the Exhaust already, or even a barrier if you really, really want to. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. Now we can talk about the gameplay. Alrighty, so we spent quite a bit of time talking about the build, but now let's actually move on to the gameplay. So as usual guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and of course any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Alright, so this game, I'm gonna first up explain why exactly we're picking Senna. So the first most important thing about picking Senna is you have to have a partner in lane who will farm, because if you take farm as Senna, yeah, you'll get more gold, but you won't get many souls, and Senna scales way better with souls than she does with gold and items. Now, of course, you do want to take gold, you do want gold and you do want items, but you only want to be taking minions if there really is no one else around, and you don't want to be setting yourself up for failure by having a traditional support, like let's say you have a Blitzcrank. Now, how is Blitzcrank gonna farm, and what's that farm gonna actually do for him? So you want to have either a mage support who will farm and build AP, or you want to have a tank support with a ranged skill who will build tank. For example, of a tank support that can farm and build tank is something like a Galio or something like Gragas. And mage support is pretty much gonna be any mage really. Like, could be a Karma, could be, you know, a Lux, could even be like a Seraphine. You guys have seen that combo before. So in this case, I do have a Lux with me who is gonna farm. Alright, so that's the first important thing about Senna that you have to know before you pick her. And the second thing is you want to have a solid frontline, because you have very little peel for yourself. Like, basically it's just your W, so you want to have a frontline to actually frontline for you, so you can actually DPS from the back. Even more important than like other ADCs. It's technically important for every ADC, but even more so for Senna. Now, I didn't really discuss this, but basically we saw Vayne and Yuumi were low, so I had a big error in judgment, and I thought we had the damage to kill, but we actually didn't, and we end up just both dying there to the Vayne and the Yuumi. So kind of shows a little bit of my inexperience on Senna, because obviously I don't get the chance to play Senna a lot, but I do love playing Senna. But so yeah, that didn't work out too well, so not the best start to the game. Also, this is only my second game on the Kraken Slayer Senna, so I see that she does a lot of damage, but I don't quite know how much damage she really does. So it turns out not as much as I thought. Anyways, we actually had a free kill on Vayne there. Olaf comes on in, interrupts our business, and manages to save his Vayne. Alright, so now, as I was saying before, the whole like fight and deaths break out, you want to be having a tank. And the fight isn't even over yet. Here we finally get the kill on Vayne, but unfortunately Yuumi is going to be able to actually escape. Especially with the help of the Olaf. Now Olaf has just hit level 5, he's come on in, he's unstoppable. Olaf is a really good counter to Lux and Senna, because the main way Lux and Senna peel from themselves is the Lux binding and the Senna roots. He can immune all of those and run us down, so Olaf kind of a hard counter in this matchup. Yeah, it doesn't feel so good to be run down by Olaf. So in this match, we have Nunu and we have Sion on our team. So having two tanks is lovely for Senna. So this is a great match to pick Senna because you have a very, very solid frontline. It's sort of like, you know, matches where you play something like a Varus or a Jinx. You really want to have a strong frontline, and this is one of those ADCs. Or technically she's a support, but yeah, she's kind of also an ADC. Another thing to point out is, if you take a look at my build at the moment, we already have the Executioner's Calling after our first death, because of course we started off with a longsword, and now on our first death we got 300 gold and we built straight into Executioner's Calling. So why are we doing this? Because we're against a Yuumi. So if you're against something like a Yuumi, Soraka, or Nami, you want to get Executioner's Calling on your first back, because that's going to actually help you win trades, and it's going to make it such that the healing from her is not so ridiculous. Like here, I already procced the Executioner's Calling there. That heal from Yuumi did way less healing than what it would have done if I didn't have it. So Executioner's Calling, really important item. Here we get the root onto the Vayne indirectly by transporting it through the Yuumi. And yeah, so why have we gone for the carry build this match? Because if you take a look at our team comp, we don't have a lot of damage. Now we have Sion, who's building full tank, doesn't do too much damage. Not even going to go for the Hullbreaker, if I remember correctly. We have Nunu, he goes full tank as well, doesn't go AP at all, which I'm not complaining about, but he doesn't have damage either. So two of our champions basically are just meat shields and don't actually do any damage. Then we have Katarina, who actually does damage. But Katarina, they started off with a Divine Thunderer. I have no idea what that build is, so she doesn't do damage either, as we barely miss out on killing Vayne. So she doesn't do damage either. Then we have Lux, who is building full AP, but she's maxing shield, so she doesn't really do too much damage either. So how do I know that, by the way? Because Lux is my friend actually, so we are communicating on voice comm. So basically, somehow it ended up that I am the main damage of the team. Although the main damage of the team should have been Katarina if she was itemizing correctly. But somehow she builds a Divine Thunderer for some unknown reason. I don't really know why, but she does go for the Divine Thunderer. It's not like the enemy team is super tanky either. And yeah, it's just not a good look. Like here you can see on her build, she already has the Divine Thunderer. 2-2 and 0 is the Katarina. She has the Divine Thunderer. I really don't know why. But anyways, we're not gonna focus too much about that, because as we all know, we can't actually control our teammates in any of the matches. So we can't control what they build. It's a really, really strange build. So we don't know what she's doing. In the meantime, Sion actually starts off with the Randuin's Omen, which I would like to point out is really good in this match, because we are actually against Vayne and Lucian, who both built crit. Now Lucian actually starts off with a Bork, which is pretty strange of a Lucian build. So yeah, so no crit on the map as of yet, but I'm probably they both will have crit at some point in time. So yeah, so here we are trying to catch out the Vayne and Yuumi again. Now, as we know, Vayne and Yuumi is a lane that's very hard to kill, of course, because of the Yuumi, but at the same time, it's very hard for them to kill us. So basically, they're scaling, we're scaling. Like, Lux and Senna scales pretty well. Of course, Vayne and Yuumi probably scales better, but they scale really well too, so not too much action happening. Okay, that's a lie. A lot of action's happening in the early game, but by right, there shouldn't be too much action happening in the early game, but there is. So here I Q through the minions to hit the Vayne, same as what you do with Lucian. You want to just Q through minions to hit the enemy champions, and that's exactly what we do. So here we have managed to basically shove them into tower, and what we're doing in the meantime with that is we're just trying to take plates. Of course, taking more plates is better. Here we go for the one shot on the Yuumi who has detached, and we do manage to get that one shot on the Yuumi. So really nice pick by me and Lux. We both hit our CC and the Yuumi is gone. Alright, so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna just shove in and see if we can pick up. Actually, there's no plates left to pick up, but we see if we can pick up the tower. Not the plates, but the tower itself. Alright, there we go. So we do actually manage to pick up the tower. And here you can see I'm spamming my spells because I want to charge up my, what's that called? Manamune faster. So here I have the Manamune, Execution's Calling, and Boots. Already. In terms of gold, as you guys can see, compared to the rest of my team, I don't really have the most gold because obviously I'm basically the support in this match, so I'm not actually taking any farm, so it does make sense I have less gold. Although I do have 8 KP, which is not too bad. 2 kills and 6 assists does get me quite a decent amount of gold from those kills. As you guys can see, when you're playing Senna, you always want to be paying attention to the map, because your ult can of course snipe out targets and can also of course give your teammates shields to help them out. So there I saw Nunu was going for a dive on Olaf. I ulted over so that he could get the shield and not take too much damage from the tower, and I don't really think he was going to die to the tower there, but yeah, it does prevent him from taking too much damage. So here Lux manages to hit the root on the Vayne, full combo again. Yuumi with the heal. I flash over the Yuumi ultimate, but Yuumi does detach and reposition. Vayne left on 1 HP. Lux flashes forward to proc her passive, and she dies. Olaf runs straight into the root and doesn't actually choose to pop his ult. Now if he popped his ult there, I think that we're both dead, so I don't really know why he didn't choose to ult there, but yeah, so he didn't actually ult there, so we both actually survive just fine. We're a-okay, and we're gonna just back off. Of course, and of course not forgetting to collect the souls. Of course Senna does need those souls, which is the whole reason why we're not farming. Yeah, I'm sure you guys know that if you're playing Senna, or I'm sure you guys just know that in general, so yeah, but just pointing it out in case you guys don't. So here we've got the top main tower, so this leaves us available to rotate to mid. Here I use my ult down to give the shield onto the Scion, because he is in an intense 1v1 with the Lucian here. Our whole team rotating down to help him out. He does get the kill onto the Lucian eventually, but if he didn't, you know, Lucian would die regardless, because our whole team was there to finish up that fight. Alright, so here nothing too much is happening. We can see Scion and Nunu pushing in the bot side, and here I see Vayne pushing in the top side. So what I want to do is try to stop that Vayne from getting the tower. It's not the best use of my time. I could be pushing with my team, but you know, since I chose to commit to this decision anyway, at least I prevent the Vayne from getting goal. That's not too bad. And in the meantime, my team gets themselves 2 kills, and likely we're gonna be able to get that tower as well. So here I'm in a 1v1 situation with the Vayne, and I really don't think Senna wins a 1v1 against Vayne, unless of course I'm really fed and she's really behind or something like that. So I'm simply just going to back off. I'm not gonna try to fight her. So here I'm doing the Grom. Now the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm just like, I think 100 gold of getting my Divine Thunder, and if you guys saw there, I'm at 41 souls, so not too bad. 41 souls in 10 minutes, not too bad. Decent soul rate. So here I'm going to recall, and I believe I can pick up my Divine Thunder. There we go. Alright, just in case I didn't actually mention this, but I went for Divine Thunder first this match before Black Cleaver, because my team doesn't really have a lot of AD. Our 2 main damage dealers aside from me are both AP, being Katarina and Lux, and as we covered, Nunu number 1 is AP, number 2 he doesn't do damage, and Scion does AD damage, but he's a tank, so the Black Cleaver doesn't have so much value in this particular match, so I'm instead gonna go for the Divine Thunder first, because that's gonna give me more bang for my buck, so I'm just gonna go for that first. Alright, so here my team is going onto the Lucian and trying to, you know, just take him out, but instead they're gonna summon the Rift Herald to actually take down the tower. So here I'm just going to join my team. We're basically in a 5-man siege onto the enemy. So here Infernal Dragon is up, but it doesn't matter because we're on the opposite side of the map and we're trying to actually get the inhibitor, which is obviously going to be more important than the dragon. So here, in addition to that, Olaf is dead, so no huge threat of the dragon there. So Rift Herald gets a second charge in, we ran out of minions. Next minion wave does come in, and we're trying to just siege the tower. We have decent siege, we have range with me and Lux, so we do actually get the inhibitor. And now that we've got the inhibitor, we can actually fall back onto the dragon if we so choose. So of course, you know, you don't have to always get distracted by the dragon and run straight there. Sometimes it's just better to simply just, you know, go for the bigger objective first, being the inhibitor tower, and then go for the dragon afterwards. Right, so here we try to actually catch out the Vayne. good attempted Q by Sion. Of course, it was blind. I thought the Vayne was there too, but unfortunately, we both missed the Vayne. Alright, so here we see majority of the enemy team is on the bot side, trying to sort of, I don't know, de-push the wave, I guess. So this gives us an opportunity to actually get the dragon. And I actually managed to snipe out the Lucian there across the map, if you guys didn't notice that. So I did pick up that kill onto the Lucian, you know, of course, through paying attention. Here, the Vayne tries to, not Vayne, the Olaf tries to flash in for the steal, but really hard to steal against a Nunu. We do get the kill on the Olaf, get the double onto the Yuumi, and here we flash forward to try to get the Zed, but Zed's way too slippery. We trade flash for flash eventually, so it's not the worst in the world, although I would say that my flash is probably more valuable than Zed, considering Zed has a shadow to like run away or chase down, whereas I don't really have mobility out of my flash. So here, our two tanks decide to 2v1 the Vayne, but the problem is that they're fighting a Vayne who shreds tanks, so they are finding themselves in trouble. So I'm gonna have to head on over to save the Sion, and yeah, I think that was pretty bad decision making my team's tanks to try to 2v1 a Vayne. Yeah, not really too good because they don't do too much damage, and Vayne has the Borkowitz and combo. Right, so here again using the Alta Cross to help my team with the fight against the Olaf Yuumi. And here I'm just waiting a while in the base to pick up Black Cleaver because I was just like 50 gold off from the Black Cleaver.
Enemy slain.
Alright, my team picks up a couple of kills. Nothing too much to see here. I'm just gonna clear out the wave because there's no one here, and I do want to secure mid lane priority. Alright, here I'm just gonna rotate over because it looks like my team is gonna be in a fight. I find the Lucian. Unfortunately, I missed the binding. I'm in a 1v1 against Lucian. I don't really think I win this. And yeah, as you guys can see, I kind of get destroyed by the Lucian. So not the best in the world. I thought my team was going to help me out. But turns out who was that? Katarina died and Lux wasn't quite able to help out. So yeah, not the best in the world getting picked off by the Lucian. But yeah. Alright, so now, you know, in the meantime, we're just going to be gray screen. So we're going to take a look at what the rest of my teammates are doing. Sion did indeed actually get the Hulkbreaker. So he does actually do a little bit of damage. And of course that makes him a lot more tanky as well.
Ally slain. Shut down.
Alright, so we're going to check out what Nunu is doing. Nunu, boom! Nearly one-shots the Lucian. Dodges the Lucian Q and just finishes him off pretty easily. And yeah, so here I'm going to take a look back at me. I'm at 53 stacks now in terms of souls. And we're doing pretty alright for ourselves. All 3 core items have been acquired. So next we're going to go for like Rapid Fire Cannon or going for a Moral Reminder. Yeah, so here, huge wave, yet again, as I mentioned. If there's a huge wave and there's no one else around to take it, you do want to actually last hit the minions to pick up the goal. You don't want to just simply let the minions die and get passive goal, because it simply is a waste of the minion wave. So here, my team looks like we want to group up and fight, so that's what we're going to do. Here I'm trying to get there as fast as possible, because it looks like a fight is definitely about to break out, and it has. So here, I'm going to out across to get the shield, give the shield to my team. Olaf goes unstoppable, but I'm doing a lot of damage to him. Of course, triple core items now. I do manage to finish him off. And Q through the tower to hit the Lucian. Snowball into the Lucian, and Lux finishes him off with the Q. 3 souls on the ground. This is going to pick all of them up real quick. And only Zed, as well as the bot lane is alive. Here I get the root on the Zed. Chain CC, triple root onto the Zed. Zed can't move at all. And he is dead. Really nice chain CC by my team. Gave Zed absolutely nothing to do. Can't use his mobility spells when he's rooted. So he is gone. So not only Vayne and Yuumi are left, decent chance for us to end the game here. So we're going to just try to push in as hard as possible and see if we can try to force end the game. Yuumi ult comes out to try and stop us. And I also respond with my ult just to do a little bit of damage. Now Yuumi's healing is still pretty insane even through the Grievous Wounds, not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie here. But here we're just gonna focus the base, ignore the enemy bot lane, and we do indeed get the victory. Alright, so now I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual, but just take note of how much damage I do with the carry build, very similar to Katarina's damage. But anyways guys, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.